Welcome, everyone, to Talent Experience Live, your weekly look at everything that you need to know from talent acquisition to recruitment to talent management to HR and everything in between. We here at Phenom love to say that this is the greatest show on the internet. If you disagree, let us know in the comments section. But so far, no one has commented otherwise. I am your host, Devin Foster. And because no one's commented otherwise, this is the greatest show on the internet. Of course, Talent Experience Live, however, is proudly brought to you by the good team here at Phenom. Everyone who is always working so tirelessly to really work towards our purpose of helping a billion people find the right job. Of course, if you're familiar with Phenom in any way, shape, or form, you have heard that before and know that it is not a typo. So welcome to the program. You may be asking yourself, if you're new to Phenom, how are they helping a billion people find the right job? Well, the answer is quite simple. It is through our intelligent talent experience platform, which helps candidates find the right fit faster, employees evolve in their current roles and beyond, recruiters achieve next level productivity as well as efficiency, and managers build better teams with data, analytics, and of course, automation. Now, you can't say automation without artificial intelligence. The two are synonymous. They go hand in hand. They are like Benny in the Jets, or in this case, Aaron Rodgers in the Jets. Of course, Phenom is powered by super slick artificial intelligence and machine learning. So if any of this interests you at all, head on over to phenom.com. Run, do not walk, but I promise you the website won't be going anywhere. For those of you who are familiar with the program, this next little bit, I'm sure you are excited about. It is the icebreaker. It is what gets us going. It is what helps really get engagement with the audience. One of the benefits of doing these live is the fact that I get to talk to you, whether you're tuning in from LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, or anywhere in between. And today's icebreaker is obviously tonight is the NFL draft. And today we are talking on this program about creating a holistic workforce, which I think is what all 31, because the Dolphins don't have a draft pick tonight, but what all 32 teams in theory are trying to do every April that the NFL draft comes around. So my question for you at home is, are you watching the NFL draft? And if so, what's your favorite team? Who are you rooting for? In case you may be new to the program, I'm a Jets fan. I'm rooting for the Jets tonight. And I'm hoping that we create a holistic workforce with some of our new assets, which segues us to our topic today. The future of work is obviously driven by technological advancements, shifting demographics, and changing societal attitudes. As a result, organizations are rethinking approaches towards workforce management and adopting more holistic views that consider the well-being of employees alongside traditional metrics of productivity and profitability. Jennifer Thomas chimes into the comment section there. Says, there is not a chance that she is watching the NFL draft tonight. John Ryle chimes in and says he is tuning in to watch the Denver Donkeys, new expansion team this year. Either way, Jen, I want to let you know that every team is going to be working to create a holistic workforce. And also, Jen, while I have you, it was requested in one of the comments on LinkedIn that we wish a very happy birthday to Elle. So happy birthday to you, Elle. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get to stay up late and watch the NFL draft. But today, we're not talking about the NFL. I would love to. I could talk about it for hours. We are talking about creating a holistic workforce, and we're discussing the importance of creating a work environment that really supports employees, not just from a work perspective, but also physical, emotional, and really social well-being. And I had the privilege a few weeks ago of sitting down with Mark Condon of QuantumWork. He is the managing partner in Fountain of QuantumWork, or not Fountain, founder, excuse me, Mark, I apologize, founder of QuantumWork. And we had a fantastic discussion about this. We actually had the conversation at I Am Phenom, and we talked a lot about some of the technology that was spoken about at the event, as well as really what the future of work looks like and how the holistic approach is truly going to be the only way to go about it. So without any further hesitation, hopefully you enjoy this next bit. And here is myself and Mark chatting about creating a holistic workforce. Welcome, everyone. I am here with Mark Condon of QuantumWork Advisory, co-founder and managing partner. Welcome to the program.
Oh,
How are
thank you? Yeah, I'm great. How you doing this morning?
It's been a morning. It has been a morning, but I'm alive and happy to be here chatting with you.
I'm happy to be here too.
Awesome.
Let's have some fun.
Let's do it. So, typically on this show, we have a lot of folks who are based in the U.S. and things along those lines. So I have to ask you, you're working here. You're at I Am Phenom. What was your journey to getting to the United States and working in HR?
I'll do the short version.
Okay, perfect.
That's a long one. But I actually lived in the US around 2000. So I lived in Boston, so I don't know where it started, but that was part of it. But this time around, my company was acquired. So I was living in Singapore for about 8 years. I'm Australian, if you pick up the accent. So, so Aussies travel a bit, and so I'm one of those. And I came over in 2015, so I've been here nearly 8 years. Yeah.
And do you love it? Are you looking? Oh yeah,
no, it's a crazy place. I love it. There's highs and lows, but no, you never get an opportunity like this anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, and now you're in the birthplace of the United States.
In Philadelphia. Yeah. Well, I live just 2 hours away in Maryland, so I drove here. It's a cool place. Interesting story. Quick one.
Of course.
I stayed in a hotel in Philly, and we saw all these little dogs. Mm-hmm. It was a dog-friendly place, and they were having a pug convention. They had like 50 pugs. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
That is surreal. And I know there's always the joke of folks who look like their dogs. I'm sure you've heard that before. I can't imagine the crowd that was in that hotel.
They were all,
if that's the case.
They had pugs, were dressed up.
Oh.
And had little, like this, they were obsessed. But they were so cute. It was cool anyway.
Hopefully, I Am Phenom lives up to that conventions last
Maybe. No, it's been great. It's been great. Maybe more dogs next year.
Yes, please. We will work on that. I'll let our events manager know. But let's get into it. So obviously excited to talk about QuantumWork a little bit. For the folks at home who may be viewing online, can you give us a quick little elevator pitch?
Yeah, sure. So QuantumWork Advisory is a New York consulting firm. We started up a couple of years ago. My bosses said we need a consulting business, and that was the brief. And then we did some work, and I'll talk to you about maybe in a minute. And we set up an advisory and services business. So we provide advice on technology and also capability around talent acquisition, extended workforce, talent management, and we implement technology as well. So, Phenom's one of our, greatest partners. So, we really love it.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I mean, it is great to have conferences like this and talk about all of the fantastic things that Phenom can do. But when it comes to, we all have those struggles with our iPhone or Android, getting it to work sometimes, it takes a little bit of expertise. That's why Apple has geniuses and we have iPhones in all of our pockets, right? But one thing you mentioned there was that your bosses said, we need a consultant firm.
Yeah.
Why did you feel the need for yet another consultant?
Yeah, it's a good question. That's probably a crazy thing to do. But we did some research. We came up with did some research and just listened to the market. So I'm obsessed with design thinking and listening to the market. And there was a gap. I think the Big Four and the other consulting firms, they're great companies, they have great people, great friends there. But there's a gap, and there's domain expertise around talent acquisition, talent management, particularly, and extended workforce in particular. It's quite specialized. Yeah. And, generally the other consulting companies, they're not ex-recruiters, they're not ex-operational people, they're smart people, but they're generalists. Mm-hmm. So it was sort of the intersection of domain expertise. I've got nearly 30 years in the industry, and So if somebody said, "What are we?" I'd say we're a design company. Okay. So that's more important to me than this thing called consulting, because it gives us a framework to explore the market and listen to it. And technology, we're obsessed with technology. Yeah. And experiences. So those were creating great experiences through technology with people, and having great domain expertise. And the fifth one is we're very lucky. I'm part of a $16 billion company, and they fortunately let us do our thing, which is great. But they're the largest privately held human capital company in the world. Yeah. So it just made sense.
I love that approach, and it's probably for a different reason than you're expecting. So I come from a background of campus recruiting,
Yep.
and I've gone to the big universities, and I can tell you this: the Big Four have the longest lines of prospective employees or graduating students, and I used to go up and poach them and be like, "Hey, you're waiting in line. Can I talk to you about the company that I'm here representing right now?" But I love that you talked about purpose, the technology aspect. Obviously, we're here at I Am Phenom, and today we're talking about a holistic workforce. So Phenom focuses on really a holistic solution to talent acquisition, talent management, and talent in general. Can you talk to me a little bit about a holistic workforce and what that means?
Yeah, and that's what we love about Phenom is we share the same strategy and ideas about covering the real estate, I suppose, of the workforce. So holistic. In the past, it's been very separated, and that's probably okay if your extended workforce is sort of 5 to 10% of your workforce. You sort of accept that's going to probably report to procurement. But now it's up to 50%. If you include the contingent workers, your managed services, your services companies, your consulting companies, maybe it doesn't make any sense anymore. So I think holistically to look at that as an operating system between talent acquisition, talent management, extended workforce, your brand and your strategy, and then that all culminates in the middle around a holistic, and you can call it whatever you want. You've got an integrated workforce, we call it total workforce management, universal workforce management. But I think the point is all these components are not silos, and they're very important to look at it holistically. So does that make sense?
No, it makes complete sense. So I've been with Phenom for 5 years now. I was not around during the iMomentous days, which is how the company was founded. And people looked at them crazy when they said, "Hey, folks are going to start applying to jobs on their mobile phones. Your career site is not optimized for that." So we've grown into everything, and when you mentioned siloed approach, I remember seeing the slides that were a part of our POV years ago, where ATS was separated from career site, which was separated from CRM, which was separated from text, and everything in between. So that makes sense. But I'm dating my experience a little bit at Phenom. This is something we were talking about years ago. From total workforce management and a holistic workforce, is this a newer concept that has really come to fruition, or has it been around for quite a while?
I think people have been talking about it for a long time, but I think it's been more the vendors looking at it, because they look at it as doing the contingent and the extended workforce, maybe managing that together. That's really hard to break down the barriers between procurement and HR. So it hasn't really taken off. I think it's being looked at very differently now, and it's looking at it as an integrated operating system that works together, and you need to look at the whole thing in view. Don't get me wrong, I think there is opportunities for the managed services firms to run both. I certainly do. But I think from a technology perspective, you need to enable it. And I can see Phenom and other companies just broadening their platform. I think the customers, this whole thing of point solutions is sort of, yes, there'll be point solutions, but the less platforms in there, I mean, most companies have between probably 8 and 20 technologies. And the CIO is losing their mind because they have to integrate all the data. And HR is not at the top of their list with resources, with money to get this. So then the systems are poorly integrated, the data doesn't match. And then you're trying to think of holistic workforce and you go, it's beyond me. So I think technology is what's starting to kick this off, and it's going to make it's a really exciting time.
I think you're 100% right with technology kicking this off. I think the need, or the expectation, I should say, of the most seamless process or streamlined process for everything in our lives has taken precedence, right? We are seeing the e-commerce experience really be mimicked in talent acquisition, and then the talent management side of the house, right, was like, wait, what about our employees? We're spending all of this capital on getting talent in, and then once they're there, kind of hands up, all right, best of luck to you. I'm sure that the conversations are a bit more intricate than that. So technology is the driving force. Do you think that anything is particularly underrepresented right now when we discuss this as a whole?
As with respect to the technology? Yeah. I think technology, and maybe I'll twist the question a little bit, but technology has been the blocker until a certain point. Like if you can't break the workforce down to sort of the skills level, this doesn't really work.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, then like it's a whole new ballgame.
Yeah.
Because you're breaking down those skills and then reassembling those skills, breaking those skills and reassembling those skills, not with a rigid job description that lasts 2 years, because my job changes every day. I don't know about yours, but my job description doesn't look anything like what I do. And I think that's the same for like 80% of the people. You know, unless you've got a really task job, which would be horrible. You know, we put people in jobs that people don't like.
Yeah.
You know, so people want a variety. They want skills. So I think coming back to the technology thing, it's so exciting at the moment. And then you've got ChatGPT. My head's starting to explode with all this stuff. The opportunities, like, you know, coding's going to be 100 times quicker. It's really just what you can imagine.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, I think the immediate thought that pops into my mind when you mention skills are all of these organizations, and really all organizations, I think in general, are focused on innovation, right? It is continuing to push the barriers. ChatGPT, very topical right now, something that potentially could free up time, but also
absolutely.
I logged in this morning. They added a voiceover to it today, so now you don't even have to read what it's written for you.
I saw that app this morning. Yeah, exactly.
And it's this idea of, I think, saving time, doing things faster, and occasionally I will listen to a podcast at 1.1 speed. If somebody's listening to this at 2x speed, I apologize because I know my voice gets quite high pitched. But when we talk about skills, folks that are coming into the workforce today, in 2 or 3 years, are going to be working on projects, concepts, things that aren't even created today. So I completely agree. Now, I have to ask you this question, since ChatGPT was brought up. Is it going to replace our jobs? Are we going to be run by robots?
No, of course not. You know, it's going to augment us. So it's going to be, we're going to become bionic, you know, in some ways. We're all superheroes. ChatGPT is so exciting, but it's really early days. As far as applications to HR, until you probably close the data into which I know Phenom's doing, because you're not going to get your HR rules and policies from ChatGPT, you know. Like, the crazy stuff is in there, like, that's just not going to happen. But if you can close that data field and use ChatGPT, I mean, it'll be the best HR administrator out there. And no one wants to do that work. You know, no one wants to be on the end of a help desk for HR telling people how to log in. You know, like, you just want ChatGPT to take care of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a perspective of, and it was talked at the conference a little bit, job descriptions, right?
Yeah.
And there's some pushback about all of these job descriptions are going to look exactly the same. I don't know how frequently you hop on career sites, but a lot of them already do. I know from my days as a recruiter, and maybe I'm not the best example, but the first thing I would do is hop onto Google and say, all right, what are similar jobs? What can I pull in? What's unique, right? And back to that augmentation piece, it's really, at the end of the day, all of this AI and all of this technology is going to serve up something for what Mahi called yesterday, you to be the judge of, right? I don't think anyone is going to copy and paste this technology, or I'm sure someone will. Let's be honest.
Well, it's one of the best research assistants you can get.
Yes, yeah.
But you don't ask its opinion because it's, you know, the internet's a messy place. You know, like, it's just going to produce messy answers, and you need to qualify it. So, but if you ask it, you know, provide statistical evidence and links to resources to prove out a point, it goes and gets the links. I mean, it's amazing. So you don't have to read hours and hours of white papers. You can just get the data you want So instantly, my life's a little bit easier because I'm constantly looking for that sort of information.
Yeah. I had a conversation yesterday around this, and the one thing that jumped out to me is it's giving folks like you, it's giving recruiters, it's quite frankly giving everyone the time to build relationships.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to answering questions. I mean, the interview process between recruiters and talent is often a little bit of a tango or a dance, right? It's a recruiter wants to interview someone and make sure that they're the best fit, but they're also selling the job at the exact same time.
Yes.
And that's not a conversation that you can typically have over an email. I love chatbot and the capabilities that has on a career site for folks to find the right job, but you hire folks for their skills and their personality, right? You can always continue to upskill them at the end of the day. And those conversations are, I think, what separates organizations that are doing well in talent acquisition right now and the ones that are not.
Well,
So
I think,
excited.
sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I think you're really hiring for potential.
Yes.
And skills can be taught, but you can't, there's some competencies, so that's probably something to throw into it. But if your ability to learn and be agile, to me, is more important than your technical skill, because you can go through a course for 3 months and you'll learn that technical skill. But if you don't have learning agility, you're not either going to be curious or interested, or you're going to just shut down your learning. So I think learning agility is probably almost the number one. And also knowing yourself very well, like knowing your own strengths and weaknesses is really important, because if you're the arbiter of your career, right, you get to choose what you do and where you go. And if you don't have a good view of that, you're probably going to learn the wrong things.
Yeah.
So you probably learn the things that don't make any sense. So I think it's just such an exciting time.
No, it is. And that brings up an interesting point as well. I remember probably a year or so ago, maybe 6 months, in the midst of the pandemic, I remember seeing a ton of things on social media about how in order to accelerate your career at a rapid pace, you need to job hop within 3 years and do all this. And I remember from talent acquisition, that used to be a red flag. I think it will begin to get back into that, especially as organizations adopt to what you're talking about, where it's really caring for the folks, the individuals in your organization, and not looking at them as cogs in the wheel. Am I way off there?
No, I think you're getting to a really important point. I think the ability to create jobs that people enjoy is I think what it's all about, right? If you get people to enjoy their role, they do wonderful things. But if they're bored, or you get that extra, maybe it's 20% or 30% extra value out of them, because they're looking to do things above and beyond their job description. But I think it's crazy that people will have felt like they've had to move when they should be able to do it internally. So I remember many years ago, I'm quite old, but there was this one company called it Velocity. The velocity of human capital movement was actually measured by the CHRO.
Okay.
We should be doing that.
Yeah.
You know, how many times are you moving your people through an organization? And who's not moving their people? And then look at attrition and look at engagement. And I would say there's a really high correlation between how quickly you can move and change jobs and your ability to build a great workforce.
Yeah. We had a discussion on this show a couple weeks ago where we talked about the modern workday, right? And how it has shifted from what traditionally was the 9 to 5, clock in, clock out, move on with your day, right? Work-life balance, that whole thing. The lines have blurred, right? I believe drastically. But in the end of that conversation, we talked a little bit about the employee review, right? And typically that is such a negative thing where folks are anxious about it. But to your point, if you're adopting a philosophy that is along the lines of this velocity, right? And you start to have those conversations of where do you want to be? Where do you want to grow? How can I help get you there? As opposed to this is what your job is. This is what expectations you met. And it's a daily process, I think, for managers.
Oh, I totally agree. I think there's a mismatch between what is a 120-year-old industrial sort of theory.
Yes.
And Taylorism and all those things about doing a task and a job. And then you've got annual job performance cycles. I mean, so I could be really good in the first quarter and people would forget about it. And I have a bad final quarter. And then you have a recency effect. It doesn't matter. I think you should be doing performance reviews every quarter. Just that's how quickly things are moving.
Yeah.
And you probably only want to hold people in a static job description for no more than a year and a half. Change the job description, change the brief, get them to do other things in the organization.
How much do you think, because I love that concept, how much do you think job title plays a role in that? You mentioned changing the job description.
Yeah.
Do you think that should be evaluated as well, in that maybe not quarterly? I think that would get messy on, especially imagine someone's LinkedIn profile.
Yeah. I think companies need to, they do need to get their job descriptions sorted. I mean, most companies, if you even ask HR, they'd say generally it's a really tough job to get them, because the hiring manager will redo a job description, put a different title on it and reband it. And there's no control. So there's 20 job descriptions with 20 different titles. Some of them do the same thing.
Yeah.
So to your point about titles, I think just cleaning it up is probably the most important thing. Just so people know, well, if I go from a P1 to a P2, whatever the coding is, I can see my career path.
Mm-hmm.
If your job descriptions are a mess, you can't do that. You don't know what your next job is. You don't know where you fit in the organization. So hopefully I'm answering that question.
No, that's perfect. And I think really what we're talking about as a whole is the data that we can gather from these things.
It's all data.
And I'm excited about it. I know we've talked here at Phenom quite a bit about career journeys, career paths, and things like that. But the ability to look at a job that excites you and see if someone else has made that path. So I come from a background in sales, a background in recruiting. Marketing probably wasn't in the cards for me if I was in this role 30 years ago, right? Whatever that may be, because we looked at it from a step approach. You go from SDR to account manager to so on and so forth. But I was able to make that jump because I know other folks have jumped from that role into marketing, showcasing those stories and really putting them out in the open. I know we're talking about data, which is super private, but getting the approval and saying, hey, if you start in this role, here's someone that went to a VP position. Here's another person who went here. Do you think that's the future as well?
Oh, absolutely. And I think you're talking about getting it down to the skills, because I think the problem with job descriptions is it's almost like a cloaking device. You really don't know their full skills.
That's true.
So you almost have to crowd surf an organization to find out the skills. Yeah. So we've got people, we're very agile. We're not a massive organization. We certainly plan to be. But we want to keep that DNA of really being able to crowdsource the organization for the projects as well as internal projects. We've got people doing video who are not in marketing. Yeah. And they're amazing, So that's what we want to continue to do. Yeah. Just keep finding where people got strengths and using them. And they get so much energy out of that. That's what that's what might make a good week. Yeah.
And it all comes down to, I think, building relationships with your employee and seeing who they truly are and who they truly bring to work. Yes. Right? We all want that work-life balance, separation, I think, to some degree, right? Where some folks may not be okay getting that Slack message at 11:30 at night.
Exactly. Some people aren't, but my kind of thing is the more you can engage people that want to learn and the job's enjoyable, they'll put up with the Slack message. Yeah. But if the job is horrible and exhausting, they're going to say that's one Slack message too much and I'm leaving.
Yeah. No. And you don't want that.
No.
No, you certainly do not. So I have to ask you, obviously, we're already towards the tail end of March at this point. This will probably air a little bit in April. What are you excited for this upcoming year with QuantumWork and then the future beyond?
Well, we're a pretty new organization, so every day is new and fresh. So it's
especially
exciting.
Since your job description changes every day.
Wow.
As well.
I just make it up as I go along, Devin. I'm allowed to do that.
Yes.
I'm super excited by the partnerships.
Yes.
Like this one with Phenom and growing those and getting more depth into those. So. It becomes sort of part of the family. I think just this whole movement with the total workforce management thing, see all the software companies sort of starting to shift and there's a lot of momentum. I think that's super exciting. And then you just throw in this sort of wild card of the ChatGPT thing And it's like, holy moly. So this is going to get fun. Yeah, it's good.
No, I think we all saw it coming.
Yeah.
But somehow it just popped up out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
there's even different. I mean, you talked about video editing. There's video editing software that's out there. I heard in one of our keynotes the other day, someone made a song about Phenom sung by Snoop Dogg. I don't think they had the budget to get Snoop Dogg at this conference, so I imagine that there was some AI involved there as well. So it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time to really embrace your employees and help encourage them learn their skills, learn what skills they want to add in their tool belt and grow.
Yeah, and we're having a great time building the strategies so that we can guide clients with this. And there's so much, I mean, their head's spinning at the moment with all this that's going on. And we've got some really cool methodologies. You know, we're obsessed with design thinking. We've got diagnostics and so forth. So we're having a ball just trying to keep in front of the market. It's good.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So where can folks go to learn more about QuantumWork and what the future holds?
I think have a look at the website, so QuantumWork.com. Feel free to contact us. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me, Mark Condon. Feel free to message me.
Okay.
And we're happy to hear from you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mark.
Right,
I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll be able to connect soon and see what's next.
Let's do this again next year.
All right, perfect.
All right,
Thanks,
cheers.
Mark.
Thank you. Bye.
An amazing conversation with Mark Condon there. We could talk about a number of things. The one thing that jumped out at me re-listening to that interview slash episode was when he talked about the holistic workforce and how folks are working in different departments in editing video. And last night I watched Ted Lasso, and they talk about total football and it being positionless soccer, essentially. And that's all that I could think about is the way that they were able to find success was to kind of remove the barriers of expectations, right? And I'm maybe paraphrasing here a bit, but what I think Mark is getting at is in order to prepare your organization for the future, you have to look at skills and what someone is bringing to the table. Maybe not specifically what their past positions were, but what skills and what attributes they can bring to your organization. That's only going to help you in the long run. It's going to help those folks grow, and it's also going to help your organization grow. When we think of the traditional job description and how if you're looking for someone in learning and development, they have to have a learning and development past. I know organizations, in Phenom is one of these, who found success in those departments with hiring teachers. There's business developments who've been teachers in the past, and they've taken their transferable skills of problem solving on a classroom basis and applied it to new positions. And they've found success doing that. I truly believe Mark is onto something here, even though we kind of joked about it at the top of the program, that there wasn't a need for another consultancy agency. However, he really is taking a different look at it and saying we have to look at the skills ontology of an organization, see where there's areas of need, and get creative in the future. And I think that's where talent acquisition is headed, because everything is changing so frequently. He mentioned Chat GPT. I mentioned the Snoop Dogg video. Those were things that were unfathomable, maybe not even a year ago, 6 months, if that. So everything is moving at a rapid pace, and you truly have to prepare yourself and change your way of thinking, rewire your brain to find success and to adopt a holistic workforce as a whole. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoy the NFL draft tonight. Jen, I know you won't be watching. John, I hope you enjoy the NFL draft. But if anyone has any more questions, as Mark mentioned, he is available on LinkedIn. I look forward to having him on the show maybe in 6-7 months, where we can talk about how these things have advanced, how the economy has played a role, so on and so forth. But I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Tune in next week. We are kicking off a new season of Talent Experience Live. We're kind of taking this seasonal approach where we want to tackle specific topics. This past season was kind of partners and the future of work, where things are headed. But next month, we are going to really tackle artificial intelligence, specifically around generative AI. I know the upcoming live event is on phenom.com. It is the debut of Phenom X Plus. So if you haven't registered for that yet, certainly do so. You can't miss it if you log on to phenom.com. But next week, I'm going to be joined by John Harrington, and it is. That's right. It's May the 4th. So it is going to be a May the 4th be with you type of AI episode. We're going to take some learnings from George Lucas's masterpiece of Star Wars and applying it to really AI in HR today, in the workforce today. So you won't want to miss that episode. As always, if you missed any of today's program, you can always catch the replay on YouTube, here on LinkedIn or Facebook, as well as Spotify, Apple Music, and everything in between. I'm sure you'll see some clips on Instagram and TikTok. But in the meantime, I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of the day. I hope everyone has a fantastic Friday, and I can't wait to see you next week. Have a good one. Thanks.